Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Couple of Nukes. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Whiskey. And for those of you who don't know, on my website, I actually have a page dedicated to women's health. And I also have resources for any women who are considering abortion because they are in financial hardship or dealing with a lot of societal and family pressures. I actually have a free resource guide that helps navigate sources and laws that are set up to help provide funding for those of you who are in crisis because of that. And so I definitely encourage you to check that out. And I say all that on the topic of today, we will be focusing on pregnancy and motherhood, specifically postpartum health. For those of you who don't know what that word means, we're going to get into that today because I know not everyone is familiar with that word, especially if you don't work in the field of pregnancy. But it is a very important and difficult phase of post-pregnancy, and it's often neglected. A lot of people focus on health during pregnancy and then during the actual birth, but there are a lot of changes to the female body that happen after birth that get neglected. And we have a guest here today who saw that and actually created a product to help with that entire process, which can be very difficult. So super excited to get into this conversation and hopefully help a lot of people out there. This isn't just for the women. If you're a man, this is a great gift or item to get. This could be your push gift. Nowadays, we've asked for a push gift. This could be the perfect push gift. It might be a bit insulting, actually. You should probably get something else besides it. But Ms. Britnee Wheeler, so great to have you here, and I'm excited to get into our conversation today.
I am, and thank you again for having me. But I'm super excited to get into the convo as well.
And could you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, especially what got you into this field of work?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Britnee Wheeler. I'm the founder of Rose Maternity Co. And not only am I an entrepreneur, but a full-time working military spouse, but I'm also a mother of five. So I have five little babies. I call them my deployment babies because every time my husband came back, we end up with a new child, but he hasn't been
Mm.
deployed for a little while, so we're at five. But honestly, I just love the family aspect. And also, as I was having my children, my husband was deployed. My first child found out I was pregnant with her the day he deployed, and he met his daughter 2 weeks after I had her. So during every child that I've had, there's been some period of time where I've been the sole provider or person in the family just to kind of keep everything going. And what I noticed, especially working full time and just kind of taking care of kids and moving around, after I delivered, I lost mobility. I wasn't able to move around the way I needed to. And I found that when I was moving, I would hold my stomach up just to kind of provide me with that support. But if I had more supportive undergarments that can help me maintain my mobility and be able to be comfortable, I felt that I would have a better experience. So when I looked into the market, I didn't see what I needed. And that is really what prompted me to create this product. So just for reference, I've created a postpartum recovery underwear. So it's underwear that you will put on that has customizable compression, and it has a belly wrap that you can adjust to fit a mom or her meet her needs. And even after a C-section, it has a pocket that you can insert an ice pack. You can have an ice pack or a heat pack just to provide you with what I call, my friend called it just like coolers, right? It's like you put that little ice pack in there and it helps cool off the lady parts. And for my guys that may not know, after you have a baby, everything just kind of stretches and it burns and all the things, and you need something to provide that support. But the hospitals that give you these underwear that are not like a one size fit all, they're scratchy, they don't support anything. And I'll tell you, you do not want to like, it's just not something that you want after you deliver. And mind you, these supplies have been given to moms for centuries, right? The same underwear that your grandmother received when she had her baby, your wife or yourself will be receiving that standard care package. So, looking just to provide that support to a mom and something that will help her feel better and have more dignity after she has her baby. So that's me in a nutshell and what I've created. And I'm just happy that this product has helped moms, including myself, feel better after they deliver.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to have an actual product because I've seen a lot of internet hacks of women putting like five maxi pads together to make the super pad for pregnancy or postpartum, and I've seen different life hacks like that. But to have an actual designated product that provides safe cooling and heating is super awesome. And I'm curious from the perspective of the military spouse, were all your birthing processes done through the VA or did you go civilian hospital? Because I'm just curious how that was,
Yeah,
VA side.
no. So I have every child that I've had, we've had a military base. So I've always went to the military hospitals. And of course, with the military, there are standard issue things that you would receive after you have your babies, but you can bring your own. And that's kind of like the space that I want to help moms be able to supplement what they may not get in the hospitals. But I think my experiences, and we can talk about one of my experience in the military hospitals, but they've been positive. I did have one
Okay.
experience where, I it was my fifth baby and you're in Savannah, but prior to us being stationed in Savannah, we were stationed in North Carolina and I had a doula and I love her and I talk about her all the time. And with my fifth pregnancy, I'm in the Columbus area and I call my doula. I say, hey, I'm going to the hospital, feeling some contractions. So I'm gonna go get checked out. And she's like, okay. So I called her back and I say, hey, they sent me home. They said I'm not far enough along, so they want me just to wait and come back. And she said, they sent you home. And I said,
Mm,
yeah, they told me to go home. And she was like, they don't know this is your fifth child. She said, don't you sit there at that house too long. You're going to be having that baby at home. So I'm just like, okay, fine.
right,
I'm just
right.
going to take a nap. I'll be fine. I'll get back up. I called her back. I said, Doris Ann, I said, I'm in labor. I'm about to have this baby. She said, I knew it. And so they sent me home twice. Honestly, it was two times that the hospital sent me home, the military hospital. And I called her and I let her know I had the baby right there in my bedroom on the floor. And she said, I told you were going to have that baby on the floor.
Right.
I knew you should have went home. But it's just kind of like, how do you prepare for those moments that you really don't know about? And then when you do have those curveballs, what is it that can help you as a mother, especially you have this idea of how things are going to go and they don't happen that way. So how do you be able to pivot and still be able to pour into yourself when things don't quite go the way you think they are? So overall, the experiences in the military hospital were positive, had a couple snafus, I like to say, but overall, everything did end well. So no real complaints there.
Right. And now you have four children that are going to be future military members and one civilian. So you kind of lucked out. Now you've got at least one civilian in the family. So I
Yeah,
think
because
it all
her
worked
her
out for the
birth
better.
certificate says unintentional home birth is what her birth certificate says. So it's not like it's the hey, so she truly is from the home because her birth certificate is actually says unexpected home birth. And I'm like, wow, of all things to put on her birth certificate. So she'll live with that forever.
Yeah,
It's
it's not the
crazy.
worst title to have. We were talking the other day on the show. We were joking. This woman was talking about she was a failed foster cat mom, and what that meant was she ended up keeping all her cats. I said, "Don't ever say that about your children." Yeah, I've got a couple failed foster children. Like,
Keep
it's
it up.
not
Yes,
it
I
doesn't mean what you
agree.
think it means. But
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
I
I
understand.
have to ask. So you saw a hole in the market. You said there's a product that I need that's not here, so I'm just gonna make it. How
Mhm.
was that process of just being a military spouse and a mom saying, I'm going to make a product, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, right? That's how most entrepreneurism happens. It kind of just happens, right?
Fall
But
into it,
there's a lot
yeah.
of research and learning curves, and I'm sure it took quite a while to really put everything together. How was that developmental process? Did you do it all by yourself, or did you have to call some friends and be like, how do I do this?
So a little bit of both, honestly. It was a hybrid approach, but I said, hey, I started looking like, okay, if I had this element and maybe, a softer touch or more compression here, you kind of pull in those inspirational pieces that you say, hey, I think if this were all in one, this is what I believe would be a great product. But I was very fortunate that one, I had friends that I worked with to kind of help me give me ideas, but I did have a team that I don't know how I got so blessed, but just industry experts that were great in like tech grading and the design. They'll take your idea and they'll work with them. You say, yeah, I like this, but I was thinking more of that, and just kind of take it out of your brain and put it into an actual sketch. And then from there, the sourcing takes time. It does take efforts, and you go through prototypes and you try to tweak and all the things, but it does take time to go through to create an actual physical product and to bring it in and not only talk about a product, but now you're talking about protecting that intellectual property and like what that looks like. And you kind of fall into these things you never really knew. So,
All
in
the
my trade,
boring legal
all the
paperwork stuff that you
all of
really
it,
don't want to
you're
deal
right.
with.
What? Yeah, you learn about that. And by trade, I work in HR, so I understand how to help business leaders achieve their goals, being on the other side of things and just kind of looking at the data and how do you find these people and all. It's just like a whole different muscle. And then not to mention you got to take kids to soccer practice, you got to do all like the things, and you're still trying to bring something to the forefront, right? So it's been a long journey. I'm happy to say we're in a great place now to where we have viable product that's actually working and is needed in the market, but
Right.
it's just more so just remaining hopeful and positive as you go through it, because it's not an overnight thing. You don't just say, "Hey, I got something," and people automatically know about it. You think, "Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna sell it," but no, you gotta find the people and then build a
Right.
relationship, and it does take time. So,
Then you end
yeah,
up on
I fell into it.
podcasts, right?
Exactly. So you got to go where the people are that want to learn more about it and be able to serve them in a meaningful way. So, yeah.
And I know you must do a face palm sometimes. Like, why didn't I think of this after the first kid? I waited until five kids after. Like, I could have been using these this whole time.
I agree. And then like when I finally was able to use it, I'm like, well, this really is like I can honestly say that I've used my own product with my children, and then it's like, oh, okay, like this does make sense and it works, and I can actually stand behind it because I used it and I know that it's a great tool to have. So that's also the time, and you want to rush things, but everything happens when it's supposed to. Because if I had just kind of threw it out there, I couldn't say
Right.
that I can stand behind it because I would have just wouldn't have had a quality product. So everything happens in its own timing, and I've been fortunate to be able to use it firsthand. So that's been pretty great.
Right. And if your husband goes on deployment again, you'll get to use it again. So that's
Listen,
a
if not,
right. Number six.
like goodness, but yeah, so that's a whole nother story. But honestly, we definitely, and my kids, I can say they're not your typical kids with the military. You kind of like develop this extra like grit, but they had like a little lemonade stand one weekend, and I promise you, through like maybe I don't know, but the kids brought in like $700 in lemonade stand. So it's just like they
Nice.
have that
Nice.
entrepreneurial drive, and they'll even ask me, "Did you sell anything today? Or do we have packages to drop off?" And they're always pushing me to like go out and do better. So I do appreciate those little people.
That is awesome. And then the branding, obviously, you've got a lot of the pink and purple and blue colors in the rose design. What was kind of the inspiration behind that branding approach?
So I will say my grandmother, her name was Rosemary. And I also had my grandma Ethel. She was like a hard worker, entrepreneur since before time. She was a cosmetologist and she had a shop in her home. So I saw hard work. And then my grandmother Rose, she was just so nurturing, so loving. And when COVID hit, I actually lost both of my grandmothers 2 weeks apart. Right. So just having children and wanting to find a way that I could honor them, this was
Right.
kind of my tribute to my grandmother to have the rose, but then also the business behind it and getting things out there and done is like that tribute to my grandma Ethel. But the rose is again for my grandmother that I lost, my grandma Rose, and then just having the business. I just kind of honor my grandma Ethel, but honestly, that's the drive behind the rose and the branding there. And pink and purple just looks cute, and I really like it. So
Right. That
just
all
more of
works
a
out
feminine
very
touch.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And pregnancy is kind of like a rose. It's something very beautiful, but it kind of hurts along the way
It
too,
has the
right?
thorns, and that's
Right. It's got
motherhood.
some
And also
thorns.
just as you go into that journey from a young girl until you go through your hysterectomies. I'll say that even with this product, I have helped my coworker who had a hysterectomy, and she was just like, I can't get a good night's sleep because I had this hysterectomy and my stomach hurts, and I find myself trying to hold my stomach at night. And I said, well, let me give you a pair of my underwear, and not my underwear, but the underwear, and let me know what you think. And she was like, my mom is so like and all of you, how do you have all these kids and then have time to make underwear? And she was like, she said that was the first time she had a good night's sleep in like months just by using the
Wow.
underwear. So we look to help moms and girls at all stages in their journey of womanhood. So that's kind of the thought behind the brand.
Right. And you've helped me out because any baby shower or like party I'm going to for a pregnancy, this is gonna be my goodie bag.
I mean, honestly, and they appreciate that because everything at the baby shower is for the baby, right? You're getting all this stuff, and no one ever really stops to think about what can
I'm
I
making
get
the
the
baby.
mom.
I'm
It's really,
delivering the
I
baby.
was like, yeah, they like,
Yeah.
okay, girl, thanks. I'm gonna just get you everything you need for the baby. But that the mom, it goes a long way just to know that somebody thought about her and her recovery. Because you go to the hospital, you have a baby, they say, okay, mom, bring the baby back in 24 hours, but we'll see you in 6 weeks. How? Like, why? Like, why would you want to see the baby and not see the person that created? And I just think we
Right.
should have that same attention that the baby would have as well, because that's important.
100%. And to me, 6 weeks sounds so far out because you could have problems post-pregnancy within, I honestly, I wouldn't want anyone leaving within the first 72 hours because
Yeah.
it is a huge change to your body. Even for people who have given birth multiple times, every pregnancy is different. I'm sure you can testify. Every single kid probably gave you a different level of difficulty, some more than others.
Oh
But
yeah.
you don't hold it against them, right?
I try not to, but I just look at them sometimes. I'm like, girl, you got a big old head. And I just kind of have flashbacks
Yes,
off
the
of
head, and
it.
I've heard a lot of shoulders, broad shoulder babies that kind of get stuck and stuff like that. So I've heard stories like that.
Yeah. So I got one in particular. I'm gonna just look at her some days. I'm like, your head is so big. And then have like flashbacks. But yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then your kids are prepared too for if they ever get pregnant and give birth, they already know mom's got them covered.
The mom and what's so fun about this, and I'll say two things and then we can talk about something else. But one, if they see a teacher in their school that's having a baby and they'll come home, they'll say, Mommy, I need to put a package together for Miss Ashanti and I need to do all the things. And they'll go downstairs and they'll pack her a package herself and set it up so they're actually gifting. I don't mind. They gift to their teachers and see, oh, they're having a baby, you need these underwear kind of thing. But then also, we're also going to use these underwear and we're kind of in the development stage to create period care. So we'll use that same technology and have a pocket that'll have a heating pack. So, like my daughters are getting of age where they'll start to get their menstrual cycles. And, well, I won't say, but as a child, when you're in school and you're trying to navigate, you have your cycle and you get accidents and all the things. I want my daughters to be able to have a heating pack that they can discreetly take care of their cramps and still be able to play with their friends. And the idea behind this is that when my daughters become of age, I'll have something that they can use to help them recover from their menstrual cycle pains. And then as they mature, mommy has the postpartum and whatever else he needs. So that's kind of the next phase of Rose Maternity Co. is helping teens be able to recover from menstrual cycle. But ideally, we just want to help manage pain at all stages of womanhood.
Right. Right. And eventually you'll have the lingerie edition look good and feel good, right?
I agree. It's so funny you say that, but I had a friend the other day. I showed him the period underwear. We're mutual friends. So I'm friends with the husband and wife, and so is my husband. So we're all like a couple of friends. And he said, so what is this in what is it in for me? Like, how could I look at this as a husband and want to be more? And we're like, we hope you're not, because those are for period panties. We'll work on that later, but I get what you're saying. So we'll get there.
Right, right. Now, one thing I do want to mention is because these are specially designed underwear, is there any particular steps in the washing process that are different, or is it just like regular clothes? You can just wash them and dry them like regular underwear.
So ideally, I would prefer like you hand wash it and just kind of line dry just to keep the integrity of the underwear. But I know as moms sometimes we just got to keep going. But for me, I put them in a just like a wash bag and put them inside the washer if I need to like get a quick recycle. But ideally you would have more than one so that way you can just make sure that they last. But typically a good hand wash and hang them up was just fine. But if you're on the go and you have to move, I just recommend that you put them in that wash bag and then wash them on a gentle cycle.
For those of us who like to do the inside out trick, does the heating pad still go in on the
It
inside or the
does.
outside?
Well, it goes, it's the front panel that it slides into the inside, but and I can grab the underwear and I'll just kind of show you, but honestly, it works. You can turn it inside out. There won't be anything that will harm it per se,
Hmm.
just based on the way that they're constructed.
Yeah, you shouldn't wear your underwear inside out, but if you do, We've
No,
already thought of that.
yeah, no,
We're
no,
prepared for
don't
it.
wear them inside out.
Right.
Yeah,
You should
but you
wash
can
them.
wash them inside out, but don't wear them inside out.
Right, right. But hey, sometimes you've got too many soccer games in the week. So
Oh my goodness. So if that's the
yeah.
case, just go ahead and
But
lay down, take a little nap, because
yeah, gentlemen, buy more than one pair so you don't have to because
yeah,
you're gonna experience the inside out too.
yeah.
So, and then I know you've got some other products as well, such as the Mommy Glow Oil on your website. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, for sure. So, like those products, just the self-care products, are really just there so moms can kind of just rejuvenate, refresh. And it's more so just to provide just gentle cleansing and then also just have that fresh layer of just moisture, because as we're moving, we just want to be able to just kind of relax. So, it's just the smaller things that are just helpful to have a mom insert that self-care. So that's truly just the idea behind. We have an all over soap, a balm, we have a nipple cream, we have the oil and an everyday lotion. And it's just more so just as moms, sometimes we're always on the go, but it's just the small thoughts that will help us be able to insert that self-care.
For sure. And then alongside with that, in addition to your products, what postpartum advice would you give for any mothers or their partners?
So I tell this to pretty much all moms that ask me, start planning for your postpartum before the baby arrives, because typically we put more focus into baby showers and I want to have this car seat and that car seat. But, my focus is always when the baby comes, how am I going to navigate? If it's like, hey, I want to cater some meals, I'll cater like 2 weeks of meals so that way I don't have to cook as
Mm,
much. Or even if my mom is coming in town, she'll have food that's available that she can feed the kids and not have to go and like really cook. And I even do that when I go out of town. Like I'll cater some meals just to make sure the kids are taken care of, and whoever's helping take care of the kids in my absence have everything they need. But if you're going to put your babies in daycare, look for daycares early, get on the waiting list, and truly vet out where you want your kids to go. Even dog care. We had, that's a whole nother story. We had three Rottweilers at one time. Don't ask me how, don't ask me why.
and
They,
five kids? Whew.
it was like, they were like a little gang. Like they just went around and just kind of, they were just in their own little world. But I had dog care. So if I had someone that wanted to come over, they took care of my dogs for me. So that was one less thing I had to do. But just trying to really peel back the onion to make sure that when I do deliver, I'm able to really focus on what matters. And that's my recovery and the right? And then that everything else has a place and it's kind of like still running, even if I'm not at 100%. So, my advice to moms is one, prepare for postpartum early, whether that's getting catering, figuring out what type of services you can do, get a doula, or even postpartum recovery underwear. Prepare for those things in advance so that way when the time comes, you're able to relax.
Yeah, and if you're looking for postpartum underwear, not a shameless plug, but Rose Maternity Co, you might want to look into them specifically. But yeah, and for me, I know at least my personal approach, and I recommend everyone do this, is whatever the average postpartum recovery time is, I would plan for an additional 2 weeks just as a backup because everyone's different. You might recover in half the time, which is awesome. Great for you if you do. Some of y'all might be a slow recovery. That's everything in life. So I would always plan for just for whatever could go wrong. So I think that's super important to look into as well. And what advice would you give entrepreneurial side wise as well? Obviously, you've got multiple projects going on. You've got young hustlers in the house that have been inspired by you. You've got your whole process that you've been through. What would you say were some of the hardships or unexpected difficulties that people should look into or avoid?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the same spirit of like delivering a baby, just think about your business as delivering, right? You have to go
Mm.
through the process of your baby is developing, whether your business is developing, you're putting things in the right process, and it does not happen overnight. It takes time to ensure that everything is where it needs to be, and it again with a business, everything's not going to be perfect, right? Everything's not going to be, it's not going to fall in the way or in the time in which you want it to do, but it's like labor. It takes time. And when you get to a certain point and you're ready to like birth this development or this business, you're going through the labor, you're going through the pains, you're going through the process of putting this into the
Legal
market.
patents.
Everything. You're going through everything to put this in the market, and you get to a point even in delivery where your baby is coming out. Like it's almost there, and it's like you're crowning, right? It is like it burns, it hurts, and you don't know what to do, but it's like you still have to push through, right? You still have to bear down and deliver what you need to, but also just keeping in mind that it's a process. It takes time. Be gentle on yourself. Be gentle when you're going through this process and find ways or people that will help you along the way, just as you would with delivery and even after and before. But, honestly, just there's going to come a point in your business where it's going to get tough and it's not going to feel the best, but just keep the faith. Just know it takes time and just continue to push and it'll get there.
One of the things you hit upon, which is so important, is the timing and rushing. And as someone who has rushed projects before, I completely understand. As any entrepreneur, once you have that idea in your head, you want to see it as a tangible product or image or whatever it is right away. And a
Mhm.
lot of people do that with podcasts, with books, with art projects, or whatever it may be product wise, is we end up rushing, taking shortcuts, or not waiting the proper amount of time because we're so excited. But, first time quality impression is so important. Actually, the Navy has a saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Mhm.
And what that hints to is when you rush through a project or trying to do maintenance or some kind of whatever it may be, you end up making more mistakes or having to restart. And that takes up so much more time than if you had just taken the time to do it right the first time. So first time quality impression, again, I get it. If I have a book idea, it's like I want to rush it. And sometimes I've had God literally take me back and say, wait, there are more chapters to this. This is more in depth than you realize. I actually have books that I have to rewrite because I rushed through it. I was so hot to trot to publish it. And I was like, oh man, I made a mistake or I didn't fully develop it like I should have. It does take time. I'm sure pregnant women are like, just want the baby out now, but you got to wait
You
however
gotta
many
wait.
months it is to
You do.
for them to develop, and same with the entrepreneurial process. And so I 100% agree. You got to be patient and you got to do your research. I've made the mistake of not fully researching everything and finding out there were ways to do things a lot more easily than I did. I made things more difficult on myself by accident by not researching and not talking to people who had already done it, which is an important thing to do. Like you mentioned, having some industry insights and contacts, talking to people who know the industry, who can help you out. It's so important. I know as entrepreneurs, we are pretty independent and a little entitled and want to do everything ourselves to be
Yeah.
the entire show, the jack of all trades. But getting insights from other people can significantly boost whatever product or service you're providing. And ultimately, that is for the better. So, patience is definitely something that entrepreneurs lack and need. And if you don't want to listen to me, you will find out the hard way. Like I said, I've been through it. I've had to redo projects, and there's a lot of people who actually give up because they rather just give up than redo the project. And
Mm.
so avoid that at
Mhm.
all costs.
So I will say you said a couple things in that I want to just kind of highlight. Yes, you will make mistakes. Yes, you will rush. You will want to put something out there that, like you said, God might have told you, hey, along the way, right? Hey, this isn't it. You kind of like ignoring the signs and kind of moving forward. But at the end of everything, there's a lesson in it, right? So there is something to learn. I'm sorry, there's something to learn from each mistake, from each rush project, from every opportunity, or even from people. So take the time, just kind of sit back and review, like in the Army after action reviews, like what happened, what
Mhm.
went wrong, what went right. So that way, when you're moving through the next phase, you're able to avoid some of those mistakes or continue to repeat those things that are value added. So with all of that, you're going to have those moments, but still take the time to reflect and then pivot as you need to.
Right. And then everyone, I just want to let you know that we're going to have Ms. Wheeler's website in the description below. That's rosematernityco.com, where you can find the shop, the about the blogs, and then contact as well. So a ton of great resources and information on there in addition to the products themselves. And then Ms. Wheeler, I just want to thank you for what you do for your time today. I think this is really important. I think a lot of Unfortunately, women's pregnancy health is neglected. In general, in our society, we have a lack of respect and value for human life and for the birthing process and for pregnancy. In fact, it's been villainized in a lot of our culture, and pregnancy has been taken very lightly and just sex in general. And there's a lot of unexpected pregnancies, and hopefully, this is something that can help alleviate the stress of that. Like I mentioned, it's a very chaotic time, and so I am very thankful for what you do for creating a product to help support these mothers post-birth, where a lot of them, like I said, people are so focused on the before and the during and not the after. So I really appreciate you taking the time to create this, and I'm very excited to see how this expands, especially into the young women's menstrual health. That's really important. For those of you who want to learn more about that, I've actually done a couple episodes on holistic healing for menstruation regulation and period parties and other stuff like that. So those will be in the description below as well. A ton of great resources there. But Ms. Wheeler, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. And thank you for this platform because this is needed. The conversations are very value added, and you're filling a great space. So we appreciate you too.
Thank you. And a lot of this stuff is considered taboo or has been, especially with men in particular hosting conversations like this or having these conversations. I think most men don't even talk to their pregnant wives about this kind of stuff. So I think
Mhm.
it's important that we are educated. I think we've lost a lot of education in America, and we need to stay educated and know that education and taboo subjects sometimes overlap, but there is a way to have those conversations that is respectful and not overly sexualized or vulgar, right? You can talk about pregnancy and sex and periods in a respectful way that is educational. So I that's part of the reason why I do this, to have those platforms available because they're not very available. So
All right. Well, I appreciate you and thank you again.